all know I'm that lady nerd, right? I literally have a literature degree that says I read and write good so I can teach people to read and write good. Banned books is something that makes me so mad. Ah! Okay, censorship. Just seriously, you're censoring some of like the most epic children's books out there solely because of the reason why they were invented in the first place. And you're attacking other books that shouldn't even be attacked. Let's get started. I'm with the band. Hello there, everybody. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, author of sci-fi fantasy with dashes of romance and nerdy references, and books that probably would be banned themselves, such as the Myrna Annals. I know my books would be banned. Look at the stuff they cover. At the very center of the entire plot is civil war amongst immortals and humans over magic, and sometimes spiritual, multicultural, religious doctrine. You know how I feel about banned books if you've even read the blurbs to my books. Censorship in books in any media should not exist. Now, mind you, guidelines of what people have in front of them at a glance are amazing. I would totally be for something akin to the Entertainment Standards Rating Board, the ESRB, for books. I totally would. We have it for movies, TV shows, video games, almost every single other media of creative, consumable nature. Yeah, I can see why books probably need their own ESRB labels, and that probably would negate a lot of this banned book stuff. I've been following banned books since I was a freshman in high school. 2001 was when banned books really got big and came into my life. When I became a teacher and specifically got my training in developmental reading and writing, banned books became core to my nature to make sure that every child, every person knows how to have access to books on topics that they care about. Do I believe that certain topics are inappropriate for certain age groups? Yes. Does that mean those books should be non-existent? No. Are those ratings perfect? No, but they're at least a guideline so parents who have the buying power for certain age groups can look at what they're purchasing at a glimpse and be like, you may be Y7 age appropriate, but you are not yet mature enough for Y7 content. Or you may be mature enough for PG, but not quite PG-13 yet. I've taught that age group. It expands all the way into high school for some people, okay? And parents know their kids. It's not just about their age, it is legit about their maturity level. That's all the more reason why I think the answer to banned books is a guide. ESRB is not law. It is a visual glimpse, again, okay? It gives parents whom have purchasing power a chance to also have an educational lesson with their kids of, okay, let's discuss why you think you are mature for this. It's not meant to be an indignation to ask that to a teenager. I've asked this question successfully to teenagers. Why do you think you can handle blank task when in the past you did blank? Use your argumentation skills. We are in English class. And that would blow their minds. But then they're like, oh, wait a minute, she's serious. Yes! I'm trying to teach you how to use those things we talk about Socrates and from Aristotle in common conversation so that you can use it with your parents, your spouse, your boss as you grow older. I'm that kind of teacher. And therefore, with banned books, censorship makes me all the more upset. Again, do things need a guideline of what is safe for certain ages and interests? Yes. I mean, we have the interests covered with genres, and to a degree in fiction, we are starting to cover some of those ESRB-like things by saying things like cozy or sweet or fade to black or dark or super spicy, you know? But in my opinion, there's even confusion of there's a little bit more black and gray in those categories depending on your genre, and I'm saying that as somebody who writes about vampires. So, banned books need a guideline. Because it upsets me that some of my favorite books are constantly banned. Lord of the Rings, you understand why it's banned. Invented language, it does have a lot about magic that some religious and spiritual groups don't want their children exposed to. That's okay. My children will be exposed to it because our spirituality and nerdiness says so. If I have any children Earthside, that is, one day. But at the same time, Lord of the Rings, kind of like X-Men and several other Marvel, DC franchise lines, you can't tell me that Tolkien didn't serve in a world war and racial lines didn't get into his books. Just saying. You can't tell me that the X-Men isn't about racial tensions in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I grew up and watched it. Both outside my door in downtown Baltimore and on Fox Box on Saturday mornings or Cartoon Network or wherever. Okay? It is social commentary for kids in an age-appropriate way. That's why we had special episodes in the 80s and 90s, right? Why can't we have these special episodes in the form of books? Charlotte's Web gets attacked all the time. For the same reason that a lot of Disney movies get attacked. Animals don't talk. Animal magic. Animal realism. Magical realism. Okay, you can choose for you and your family not to do that. Don't take the joy of it from somebody else just simply because you don't like it. It also blows my mind that James and the Giant Peach, for the same reason, you know, a book that has a great lesson about childhood through the power of imagination. Something that children that read that book at that age are being convinced by society to let go of, says the opposite. So, the Lorax, by the same token, if you want to go even younger. Yes, I'm going to Dr. Seuss because I also believe in Dr. Seuss Week to balance out Banned Books Week. You gotta have one in the fall, one in the spring. And a lot of Dr. Seuss's books get attacked because of their environmental activist undertones. Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki-sama, same thing. If you've ever watched Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, you probably see the same overtones and themes in the Lorax. No, I haven't written that paper. High school me did. Anyway, but even to the fact that poetry, Shel Silverstein, because people have taken, children have taken Shel Silverstein's poems literally. That was kind of the point of Shel Silverstein's poetry. Just like there's multiple layers in The Lion King and Hercules, jokes-wise, for the adults. Trust me, there's so many things that Jeannie and Phil say that I didn't understand until I was in my late teens. Disney, you knew your audience. Wow. Wow. Same thing with Shel Silverstein. I know you're sitting here reading these books. Let's put some oniony layers in there, shall we, Shrek? I mean, talk about a movie that makes fun of all the censorship that is censored and not censored in books as it is. So, it also bugs me that good, solid reads that should be considered from historical perspectives are getting bashed with a modern lens. Dude, some of the most powerful writers in history need their books to be read. Anne Frank needs to be read. Not necessarily by middle schoolers, because I've taught it to middle school and they didn't quite have the mental maturity development for it, but I've also taught it with seniors. Yeah, you want to talk about getting a completely different perspective on that? That year, I let my students pick what novels they wanted to study. We did a year-long of novel studies. Guess which 3 books they picked? Because I required them to do 2 plays and 3 full-length books. Anne Frank, the things they carried, Kite Runner. Seniors saw the blurbs to these books and they were like, I want to know, please show me. To kind of quote, you know, Tarzan a little bit, and Phil Collins just, what? This really happened? Yeah. These are based on true stories. And of course we talked about the nature of the fiction telling in those books. These are based on true events. For the sake of bookization, because Anne Frank is more a legit nonfiction piece than the other two have more storytelling elements to them. We talk about, you know, based on real events movies like Remember the Titans and stuff of that nature, how you got to have a through line plot for it to make sense. And some of these events are true, some of them are modified. And that was probably one of the best years ever as far as like watching the kids test their maturity goes. Would I teach those books any grade lower than 12th grade? It would really depend on my 11th graders' maturity. I wouldn't teach Anne Frank at the middle school level. I wouldn't teach To Kill a Mockingbird to middle schoolers. I think they need to grow up just a tiny bit to understand that you need to look at these books in the contextualization of the person who wrote them in the time they were written. They do have a story that still is valid to learn about through that lens. Because as somebody who has studied history, not just through literature, but through primary accounts, supposed primary accounts, we're starting to repeat cycles that probably should have never even been done the first time we went through them, and this is not the second time we've gone through them either. Humanity does not need this kind of brash, burn it censorship. Guidelines at a glance, because content can be how thick is the novel Moby Dick, because it's a constantly banned book as well, so at least that deep, if not more. I encourage you this fall and this winter, add some banned books to your list and your children's lists, because tales that you loved that you would have never thought twice about burning and getting rid of forever are being attacked daily for just that. Thank you for listening through to the rambles, and we'll get back to talking about editing things in part 2 of the editing iceberg soon. Thank you all for your uplifting commentary and insight, and thank you very much for still being supportive during this trying time. Take care of yourself. You've always been worth it.